members who do any sort of defense work. They work at a defense law firm, or they are a defense attorney, close friend or family member. Has anyone ever attended law school or taken any law-related classes or paralegal training? All right, number 90. And what sort of training have you received?
I have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Okay.
And I was a former military police officer for the American Army.
All right. Yes.
I don't know if they count, but when I was in college, I took criminal justice class.
Okay. You said that was while in college.
Yes.
And sir, in the back, what's your number?
68.
68. Thank you, sir.
The bachelor's in criminal justice, and I'm a current police officer for 22 years.
Okay. And what jurisdiction are you a law enforcement officer?
Exactly.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I didn't know if we had that education out there, so I do have a bachelor's in criminal justice.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyone else? We asked some questions about if you knew us, but in sitting here, seeing everyone in the room and also anyone else that you've seen downstairs in the jury services room, do you recognize or know anyone else who is also here for jury service? I'm going to read you a list of names. These are all potential witnesses in the case. If you could just listen, and if you recognize any of these names as someone you think you know, please just let us know. Vanessa Parker, Anaya Parker, Christopher Shower, Charles Crenshaw, Timothy Cummings, Josh Fielder, Wendy Sandvidge, Greg Patterson, or Serinda Flanagan. Does anyone recognize any of those names? Has anyone ever been to the Henry County Jail, whether that be for work purposes, to pick someone up who's been arrested, to visit someone who's in the jail for any reason? Has anyone been to the Henry County Jail? All right. Sir? Number 84?
Yes.
What were you at the jail for?
I'm a barber.
You're a barber. So were you providing services to some of the inmates?
Yes.
Okay. And is that something that you've done on a regular basis?
No, ma'am.
Okay. About how many times would you say that you've gone there?
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
It's based on the contract.
Okay. And when you went, did you have a particular area of the jail that you would go to?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So would it just depend on what services were needed at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
And sir, number 87? And what was the reason you were at the jail?
I didn't come at court on time, so one day, jail, one day.
Okay. You said you were at the jail?
One day.
Okay. And, all right. And did you say that was for missing court?
Yes.
Okay. Has anyone here ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? Does anyone have a close friend or family member who has been arrested for a crime? All right, we'll start with you, sir, number 84. And who was that person in relationship to you?
Quite a few family members that arrested for crime.
Okay, so it was mostly family members.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have, a lot of detailed knowledge about these, or did you just know generally that they had been arrested?
Family arrested.
Okay. Did you know enough of the circumstances to make an opinion as to whether or not they were treated fairly?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your opinion?
But they weren't.
You felt that they were not treated fairly?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that for all of your family members or just specific ones?
All of
Okay. And was there anything particular, or was that just based on your knowledge of the circumstances that you felt it was unfair?
them. Just based on my knowledge.
Alright, was there someone over here as well that had their hand up? Okay, anyone on this side had a close?
I had mine up, it was just for, DUI related offenses.
Okay, and was that for you or someone else?
No, just a first cousin.
I'm sorry?
A first cousin.
Okay. And did you have any detailed knowledge about that?
No.
Okay. Yes,
My sister and my mother, I don't really know any details on my sister. My mother was for, assault with no, not assault. I don't know, she threatened somebody with a weapon, she didn't, I don't know that.
Ma'am, I'm having some difficulty hearing you. Would you please project just a little more?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
My mom, she threatened somebody with a weapon.
okay. And I believe I saw on your paperwork, correct me if I'm wrong, that this was a recent occurrence with your mother? Okay. And was that here in Henry County?
Yes.
Is that still a pending and ongoing matter?
What is it?
And were you involved with that at all?
Yes, it was, because I was sexually assaulted.
Okay, and were you present when this occurred?
No, I went after, that it happened, and I went home, and she went to the police.
Okay, so when she was arrested for this, you were not present? Okay. And, since this is a recent event, I believe you said December on your paperwork?
Yeah, around there.
Okay. Is there anything about that being a more recent event and the fact that your mother has a pending case with, Henry County, would that impact your ability to sit on this jury and be fair and impartial? Okay. Was there anyone else over here that had their hand raised? Okay, I want to ask specifically if anyone, either yourself or a close family member, has ever been accused or charged with some sort of sexual related crime, whether that be child molestation, public indecency, sexual assault, any sort of sexual related criminal offense. Okay. Is there anyone, either yourself or a close friend or family member, that has been a victim of some sort of sexual assault, whether that be someone has exposed themselves to you in a sexual manner, sexual assault, public indecency, child molestation, any sort of sex-related crime? Okay. Ma'am, number 90. And was that you or someone close to you? And how long ago was that?
It was about 30 years ago now.
Okay. And was that reported to law enforcement? And can you tell us why law enforcement was not involved?
was only 12 years old. I didn't know the individual I was kidnapped. He was really great.
Okay.
And, my mom is, she's a foreigner. She really didn't know English, so I reported it to her. And, she was scared of the police for some reason, and so she just never reported it. So I went to school, I told my guidance counselor, they never reported it, so I just, they just never reported it.
So you did make disclosures, but because of your age of being a minor, no one went and reported on your behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry that that happened to you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, you raised your hand as well. And can you tell us a little bit about your circumstance and why you raised your hand?
I have two cousins that family did it to her.
Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, I have some trying to talk because I have a stroke. My speech is not too good.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why I can't talk too good. But his dad do her.
Okay.
And one of his cousins did another family member too.
Okay. So it was family members who have been assaulted?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, did you have your hand raised? And was that yourself or someone that you're close to? Okay. And can you tell me how long ago that was?
1991. Or 92.
And was the incident reported to law enforcement?
Yeah.
Did anything come of that?
Actually, I called back probably about 5 months ago. We figured out what the DNA test was the person who had pled guilty on that kind of.
So you just recently received information that DNA was able to confirm the identity of the person who assaulted you? Okay. And does the fact that you recently learned of that information bring up any emotions or feelings that would prevent you from serving as a fair and impartial juror on this case? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone on this side of the room? Yes, ma'am.
My mom was, I don't have any details about what happened.
Okay. Do you know if it occurred when she was younger?
It was when she was younger, but I'm not sure how young she was. But it was a while ago.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this side of the room? Does anyone believe that what occurs in the home should be dealt with within the home, whether that be some sort of domestic violence, sexual assault, how you choose to discipline your children? Does anyone believe that regardless of the severity of it, that the police should not be involved, that it should stay within the home? Yes, sir. You believe that that's a family matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone have any experience working with children? Either you are a teacher, you are some sort of camp counselor, you volunteer, coaching, anything of that nature, working with children. All right, yes, sir, we'll start with you, number 59.
I teach 4-year-olds in Sunday school.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
About Between 10 and 15 years.
Thank you, sir. I saw some other hands raised on this side as well. Sir, I'm sorry, what's your number? Is that 68? Okay.
Coaching and scouts.
Are you a scout leader? And what are the ages of the children that you coach?
Currently, anywhere from 11 to 18.
Okay, thank you. And sir, number 71?
Coaching.
And what are the ages of the kids that you coach?
It started at 3, all up to 16.
You said 3?
Yeah.
Little bitty ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all.
Yes, ma'am.
I taught swim lessons weekly.
Okay, and about how old were the children that you were teaching?
They range from little toddlers to like 18.
Okay. And you said you did that briefly?
Yeah.
About how long ago was that?
2019, 2018.
Okay, so just a few years ago? Okay. All right, and over here, I saw a few hands raised as well. All right, ma'am, number 90.
I was a internal suspension officer for the state of Massachusetts, and I was also an inspirational speaker for youth that are coming out of DYS, so as soon as they go into a halfway house, I would go in with the Boston Police Department, I volunteer my time with them, to speak to youth, at-risk youth, to get them on the right path. And I worked with a program called On a Rise, but youth who are just not having, just to put them on the right path. And it would range from 12 years old to 18 years old.
Okay. All right, thank you for that information, ma'am. Number 87.
I was a coach,
Okay.
age, 6 to 16. in the Marines.
You said with the Marines?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Was there anyone else over here? Has anyone ever been falsely accused of a crime? Yes, sir.
Yes, I can't say the word, but I was, the judge let me get out because it didn't have to, but it was, somebody put something that wasn't right. So I had to go to jail, I had to go to court, and the juries let me get out.
Did you go through a trial?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And I'm sorry that that happened to you, and obviously, that's not something we want to happen, for anyone to be falsely accused, but do you feel that the ultimate result of the case was fair outcome?
Yes.
Is there anything about that experience that would prevent you from being fair and impartial if you were selected to serve on this jury?
No, it's, no,
Okay.
problem with that.
And when we say fair and impartial, I'll just say this to everyone, we mean both fair to the state and fair to the defense, that you would give both sides a fair chance.
No problem with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone that has any moral, religious, or philosophical beliefs that would prevent you from sitting on a jury and making a decision if you were selected to serve on this case? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone that has a physical hardship or a medical reason outside of COVID that would prevent you from sitting as a juror if selected on this case? Yes, sir.
Heard it. I'm still in the middle of a stroke, and my hearing is not not too good,
Okay,
so sometimes I can't say some of the words. If you ask me to tell you to, I couldn't say it too good.
okay. And so are a lot of your issues in regards to your speech?
Yes,
Okay. Have you been able to hear everyone okay so far?
sometimes I can hear
Okay.
some of the words, some of it I can't.
So you've had a little difficulty here and there?
Yes,
Okay. If that happens again, feel free to raise your hand and we'll do our best to speak up so that you can hear everything we're saying.
I can hear everything that you're saying.
Okay. Well, if not, because sometimes we do forget and our voice lowers down some, so if for any reason, just raise your hand and let us know that you need us to speak up, and we certainly will do that. And if we are speaking up, do you feel that you would be able to participate in the trial?
If I can hear it good.
Okay. And do you have any issues with seeing anything? If we have, you'll see there are a few television screens set up around the courtroom. If we have any evidence, we would be showing that to you. Would you have any difficulty viewing that?
I can see good.
Okay.
It's not, the speech is my hearing.
Yes, sir. Okay. So as long as we speak up, you'll be able to follow along with us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we will certainly do our best to make sure that we're speaking up so that you can hear us clearly.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that feels that they have any other sort of medical issues that would prevent them from sitting on the jury? As you heard the judges read the charges, there are allegations of public indecency. Is there anyone that would have an issue looking at nudity or genitals to the point that it would distract you or prevent you from focusing on the evidence presented in the trial? And I'm going to go through now and ask you all some individual questions. So if you can just make sure again that you speak up, and if I ask anything and you can't hear me, just let me know. Number 57, good morning, or good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing?
Afternoon now. It says on here that you work for the city of Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you do for the city of Atlanta?
I'm an inspector.
Inspector?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been working with them?
23.
23 years? Okay. And I see here that your wife is former law enforcement with Fulton County, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have 3 children.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the age range of your children?
I have 119, 121, 120.
21, and what was the last one?
19, 20, 21.
Okay. Do you have any grandchildren?
No, ma'am.
Okay. It says here that you've called 911 before. You or someone close to you has called 911.
Probably my wife had to do COVID last year. COVID last year.
Okay.
How long have you been here? Last year.
Okay.
Yes.
It also says that you served on a jury before.
Yes.
And that was here in Henry County. And were you all able to reach a verdict?
I can't remember.
Okay. And were you the foreperson?
No.
Okay. Now, with your wife being former law enforcement, I imagine that at least with some officers, you have a good relationship with them. You mentioned on this sheet that due to things that you've personally experienced or observed in the media, that you may be less likely to trust an officer if they testified. Is that something that is a personal experience or due to recent events in the media? Okay. And obviously, given that each case is considered differently, would you be open and willing to listen to officers' testimony in this case and judge that evidence with an open mind and be fair and impartial to their testimony?
Yeah.
Would you be more likely to not believe them just because they are a police officer? So you believe that you could give their testimony equal weight to any other witness? Okay. And also, just following up with the criminal justice system, you indicated that you believe that there's unfairness in the system. And is that something, again, that you could look at the facts and evidence of this particular case and judge it based on the evidence presented?
Yeah, no, basically,
And do you feel that you could be fair to both the state and the defense and listen to all evidence before making a determination? Okay. Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Juror number 59
That's right.
says you are a retail store manager with Sherwin-Williams,
That's correct.
and you've been there for about 5 years?
Yes.
Okay. And as a store manager, do you have the ability to hire and fire individuals?
I do.
Okay. And how long have you been in a position to hire and fire other individuals?
2.5 years.
Okay. And it says on here that you have one child,
Yes.
and how old is that child?
5.
5, okay. You have some friends who are in law enforcement.
Yes.
Is there anything about having friends that are in law enforcement that would cause you to give greater weight to a law enforcement officer's testimony?
No, not greater way, no.
Okay. Do you feel that you could judge their testimony equally to anyone else?
Yes.
And you could be open-minded and fair and impartial in listening to the evidence?
Yes.
Okay. It says here that both you and your father have been victims of property theft?
Mhm.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
It was in 2011, I believe.
Was that here in Henry County?
It occurred in Atlanta,
Okay.
South Atlanta.
And did you file a police report?
Yes,
And did the police follow up with you regarding that theft?
they did.
And were you satisfied with the response of the officers?
Yes.
You indicated that you have some concerns, or at least answered that you have other individuals that live in your home that are potentially vulnerable.
Yes. Both of my parents live with me. My mother has vascular dementia, late stage, and they're in their mid-70s. Just caution.
And do you feel that that's something that would weigh on your mind or prevent you from focusing if you were selected to serve on this trial?
No, it will be okay.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. You mentioned that you feel that the criminal justice system is unfair. Is that based on a personal experience, or is that based on events taking place in the media?
It would be more media based. I don't have any personal experience.
Okay. Is there anything about your opinion that would affect your ability to listen to a case here in Henry County and judge it based on the evidence and the testimony provided by the witnesses on this
No.
case?
No, ma'am.
Is there any reason that would prevent you from being fair and impartial to both sides in this case?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Juror number 65. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes,
You are a training manager.
I am.
Okay, and as a training manager, is that a position that allows you to hire or fire something that would weigh on your mind or prevent you from focusing if selected for the trial?
No longer we maintain the proper protocol.
So in terms of the way that it's seated right now, do you feel comfortable?
Yes.
Okay. And we certainly have people coming in and cleaning and doing things to ensure everyone's safety. And so with that knowledge, is that something that you would feel comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay. And aside from COVID, is there any reason that would prevent you from sitting on this jury in terms of health concerns?
No, I may have high blood pressure, things, but no.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Okay. It says here that you were unfortunately a victim of identity theft a few years back,
Yes,
and I believe it said that that occurred online.
it did.
Okay. And did you make a report here in Henry County?
Yes.
And were you satisfied with the experience that you had with the Henry County law enforcement officers?
Yes.
You also mentioned that you had called 911 and gave a statement. Is that in relation to that same event?
No.
Okay. What was that in relation to?
My son actually called 911 because I was having some problems with breathing.
Okay. So it was a medical issue?
Yes.
Okay. And on here it says you have a few different friends who are in law enforcement. Is there anything about the fact that you have friends in law enforcement that would cause you to put more weight on an officer's testimony?
No.
You believe that you could listen to all witnesses presented by the state and judge them equally?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any reason that you could not be fair or impartial to both the state and the defense?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Juror number 68. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you have quite a lot of friends who are in law enforcement since you are a law enforcement officer.
So yes.
Okay. Being that you're in law enforcement, I believe you said over 20 years. Do you still feel that you could come in here, be seated on the jury, and listen to officer testimony and judge it with an open mind and judge all the testimony equally?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel that your work as a law enforcement officer would cause you to give greater weight to an officer's testimony?
No, ma'am.
I believe it says that you served on a jury as a cab back in '98, quite some time ago. It says you or someone close has called 911 or given a statement. Is that in relation to your work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you believe that your position as a police officer would cause you to come into this believing that just because we're the state and you're an officer, that that must mean that Mr. Clark is guilty of something? Do you believe that you could give him a fair trial if selected?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would listen to all the evidence and wait till the conclusion of the trial to reach a verdict? And what are the ages of your children?
14 and 10.
14 and 10? And it says you were a victim of theft.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that here in Henry County?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What jurisdiction was that?
Yes, ma'am.
And about how long ago was that?
25 years.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Number 71. Says here you're a banker?
Yes.
And, how long have you been working in the banking industry?
21 years.
You have 2 children?
Yeah.
What are their ages?
17 and 13.
Okay. And it says you or someone close to you has called 911 on an occasion?
Medical emergency.
Okay. And I know we all like to indulge in some of the crime TV shows. Coming into this, do you understand that obviously the technology and things of that nature that we have access to differ from what's on TV?
Sure.
Okay. And there was just a response to a question that there are sometimes expectations of what you might see or hear during a trial based on what is on TV. And are you able to come in kind of with a clear mind and understand that we will certainly present everything that we can to you? Okay. And do you feel that there's any reason that you could not be both fair and impartial to the state and to the defense in this case? Thank you, sir. Juror number 73. I believe we spoke a little bit earlier about some of the things that you responded to in your questionnaire. It says here that you were the victim of an assault just last month, or I guess now we're in May, so in March of this year.
Yes,
And is that case still pending?
yes,
And is that pending in Henry County?
yes.
Did Henry County officers respond to your home?
Yes.
Okay. And were you satisfied with their response?
Like when I called them or after the fact? Like, after I gave my statement, you know, like the very time to them?
I'm sorry, can you speak up just a little bit?
That's great. I was saying, do you mean that they respond to me after my statement and like after the whole ordeal, or like when they initially came to my home?
Both, any interactions that you have with them, have you had a good experience with their response so far?
Oh, yes, I haven't heard after yet, but, when they came next.
Okay. Is there anything about the recent nature of that event that would cause you to feel unfocused or have any sort of emotion in sitting in a criminal trial and listening to evidence? You also indicated that you or a family member had testified as a witness in some sort of hearing.
Yes, I don't have details on that, I just asked my mom about it, and that was the response, but I don't know anything specifically.
Okay, so it was your mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you indicated that you or someone close to you had called 911 and given a statement, was that the recent incident where you were a victim?
Yes.
Okay. You also indicated some mistrust towards law enforcement as well as a belief that the criminal justice system was unfair. Is that based on an experience that you have had personally or just based on things that are occurring in the world?
Things that are occurring in the world.
Okay. And do you feel that you would be able to separate other events that are going on and judge this case fairly on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe that you would be able to listen to the testimony of a police officer and give it a fair chance and judge the credibility of that officer based on their testimony before you in court?
Yes.
And do you believe that you could give them a fair opportunity in comparison to other witnesses? Okay. And same as the prior gentleman, obviously, we're working with, different technology and different abilities, here in court versus on TV. Is there anything about the difference between in person and on TV that would cause you any sort of concern or any sort of expectations that you would place on the state?
No.
Okay. Is there any reason that you cannot be fair and impartial to both the state and the defense? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Juror number 81. Says you work the front desk at a doctor's office?
I do.
Okay, and how long have you been doing that?
About 3 years.
Okay, and how were you employed prior to that?
Same kind of thing, just at a different office.
Okay, so you've been doing the same type of work for a while now?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably about 15 years.
Okay. And it says that you are related by blood or marriage to someone in law enforcement?
I am, but they're in Illinois, so.
Okay. Is there anything about that relationship that would cause you to give more weight to an officer's testimony? It says you have 2 children?
I do.
What are their ages?
31 and 36.
Do you have any grandchildren?
Yes, one.
1. How old are they?
2.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Juror number 84, I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you, but we had a lot of opportunity to speak earlier during the general questions. So I believe I've got all the answers I need, so thank you so much for your honest responses, sir. Juror number 87 says that you've previously done work with Neighborhood Watch or as a security guard.
Yes.
Okay. And does the fact that you, I believe it says you wanted to become a police officer at some point, would any of those experiences cause you to give an officer's testimony greater weight than another witness?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that you could judge all the witnesses' testimony equally?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that someone close to you, I believe your son, had had either particularly positive or negative experience with law enforcement.
Yes.
Was that positive or negative?
For him,
Yes, sir.
for him it was, for him.
It was, for him it was,
For him, not for me.
okay. Is there anything about his experience that would cause you to be prejudiced or biased either towards the state or towards the defense?
Not at all.
Okay. It says that either you or a close friend or family member has had to call 911 before.
Yes.
Was that you or someone else?
My ex-wife.
She called 911?
Yeah.
Okay. And did the police respond?
Yes.
And were you present when the police responded?
Yes.
Were you satisfied with the way that they handled the situation?
Yes.
And I believe, let me know if this is incorrect, was that in 2018?
Yes.
Okay. And that was here in Henry County?
Yes.
All right, and is there anything you can think of that would prevent you from being fair and impartial to both the state and the defense?
It's nothing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Juror number 88. It says here that you're a pastor,
Yes.
and how long have you been in that line of work?
12 years.
And that you have 2 children?
Yes.
How old are your children?
25 and 27.
Do you have any grandchildren?
Yes, one,
And how old is that grandchild?
two,
Now, as a pastor, is there anything that would prevent you from reaching a verdict and determining someone's guilt or innocence at the close of evidence in a criminal trial?
no,
Is there any reason that would prevent you from being both fair and impartial to the state and the defense?
no.
All right, thank you, sir. Juror number 90.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw in here that you had listed some concerns due to caring for your mother who has cancer.
She was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. She has stage 2 dementia. She's on hospice care right now. Both my husband and I are caregivers, and she has a nurse that comes 3 times a week, and a home health aide that comes 3 times a week.
Okay, so she's on hospice care in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have concerns in being here today?
I do.
Okay. Are those concerns such that they would weigh on your mind if you were selected to serve on this jury?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you believe that that there would still be adequate care for your mother even if you were present in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It says you have 6 children,
Yes, ma'am.
and what are their age range?
26, 23, 17, 16, 14, and 13.
Any grandchildren?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And it says that you have served on a jury before,
Yes, ma'am.
and I believe you said possibly both civil and criminal.
Yes, ma'am.
And approximately how long ago was that service?
10 years ago.
Okay. Was that here in Henry County or somewhere else?
No, ma'am. Somewhere else.
Okay. Were you the foreperson on any of those cases?
No, ma'am.
And was it just 2 cases?
It was just 2.
Okay. And in both of those cases, without telling us what the verdict was, were you all able to reach a verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a verdict in both cases?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything about your degree in criminal justice, having family that were in law enforcement, and you yourself being prior military police, that would cause you to give greater weight to an officer's testimony?
No, ma'am.
Do you believe that you could judge all evidence fairly?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any reason that you cannot be both fair and impartial to the state and the defense have chosen for this case?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Juror number 91, good afternoon. All right, ma'am, it says that you were unfortunately a victim of a burglary. And when did that occur? Okay. Were you living in Henry County at the time?
No.
Okay. And did you report that to law enforcement?
Yes.
Is that what you were referring to when you indicated that you called 911 and made a statement?
No, I called 911 when I saw a couple of accidents.
Okay. So it was just not necessarily related to you, but you saw it and wanted to alert rescue personnel of what was going on?
Yes.
Okay. And it says you interned with the Florida Department of Corrections.
Yes.
How long was that internship?
I did this year.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
2010 to 2003.
And it says, as well as you, that your brother was also the victim of a crime.
Yes.
And both your burglary and also the situation where your brother was the victim, were you satisfied with the way that the law enforcement and prosecutors handled those cases?
Yes. The accident.
Okay. You also indicated that, you believe there was unfairness in the criminal justice system. Is that something that is a personal experience or just some of the situations going on around the world? Okay. And do you feel that in this case you can come in with an open mind and judge the evidence presented to you and be fair and impartial? Is there anything that you can think of that would prevent you from being both fair and impartial to the state and the defense? No. All right, thank you, ma'am. That completes my questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Lord.
Thank you, Judge. All right, I'm Attorney Lord. I represent Mr. Davis over here. I've just got a few more questions. I've written down most of what everybody has said. So I'll ask this side first, and then go over to this side. All right. All right, raise your hand if you think this is true. Or how many of you believe that innocent people are not arrested by the local police? So an innocent person does not get arrested. Is that true? Okay. All right, how about over here? How many of you believe that innocent people are not arrested by the police? Okay, thank you. Does everyone understand that Sean, my client over here, comes into this court presumed to be innocent? Okay? All right, thank you. Is there anyone that believes, since Sean is seated over here at the defendant's table, he must be guilty of something? He must have done something wrong. Does anybody believe that's true? Thank you. All right, when we first got here, the judge read the indictment to you. And that's the piece of paper that charges my client with a crime. Is there anyone who thinks that an indictment is proof that a crime has been committed? Does anybody think that since he was indicted, he committed a crime? No? Okay, thank you. And one last, is there anyone here that doesn't want to be here for any reason or no reason? You just don't want to do jury for a week or less. How about over here? So everybody's okay? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lord.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your panel number 3. And we're going to ask you to report back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Okay? Because we're going to have another panel after this that we have to interview. And then we'll see where we are. But if you'll please report back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to the seat that you went to this morning. You have a number on your lapel. That number corresponds to a seat. And this is just telling you something you already know. And if you'll just go back to that seat in the morning, it will be there for you. Okay, that's your seat throughout the course of the jury selection process. Hopefully, sometime tomorrow morning, we'll be in a position to let you know whether or not you've been selected to serve in this case, at which point your numbers will be less important. But until you're selected or released, that seat and this number correspond. A couple of other little housekeeping matters before we leave. You've heard a little bit about the case. There is a temptation to want to get out your phone and plug a couple of terms into Google and see what that search engine produces. That is strictly prohibited. You are not permitted at all to do that going forward. Everything that you need to know about this case, to decide this case, will be presented here in this courtroom. And only the information provided to you here in this courtroom is what you are to consider in deciding the case if you are selected to serve. So it's vital to the integrity of the process that you not do any independent investigation into the case. It's also vital to the integrity of the process that you not engage in any social media postings about any aspect of this case. Okay? And I think that the reasons for that are self-evident. But basically, what we're trying to do is protect you against outside influences and protect the process and the rights of both the state and the defendant. All right, so if there's nothing else at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and release you. Thank you for your patience and for your time. We can't do this without you. And we appreciate your service. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, let me just say, Mr. Lord, I want to be sure that you are maintaining 6 feet between CR-285-GA. It charges Mr. Clark with child molestation, count number 1, and public indecency, count number 3. He is not charged in counts 2 and counts 4. And so, if you hear reference to those counts, then you're just disregarded. It has no bearing at all on the trial of this case. Okay? First thing I'm going to do this afternoon with this group, which is panel number 4, a panel is a group of 12 jurors. And so you're a group of 12, and you're the 4th such group that we had today. So we're going to call you panel number 4 going forward, all right? First thing I'm going to do is introduce the people who will be involved in the trial of the case. Representing the state is Ms. Megan Matucci. She's the Assistant District Attorney. And she is the lead prosecutor in this case. And she'll be assisted today by Ms. Amanda Duncan, who's also an Assistant District Attorney. Representing the defendant in this case is Mr. Richard Lord, who's directly in front of me. And the defendant in this case is Mr. Sean Clark, who's right next to Mr. Clark. He's wearing the tie. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously we're engaged in jury selection. And the length of time that it takes to do this varies widely from case to case. And regardless, I can't emphasize enough the importance of this phase of the trial. If you were seated at one of these 2 tables, you would want me and your attorney to take enough time to do a thorough job. For that reason, I ask that you not become impatient with the process. It is a process that is unique to the United States of America. It is designed to secure 12 jurors, all of whom begin the case with no opinions concerning the outcome. How this is going to proceed is that I'm going to give you an oath under which you promise to be truthful in answering the questions that are asked of you. I will ask you to tell me if you are related to certain people involved in this case. I will also inquire as to any opinions you have about this case, any prejudice or bias you have concerning the case, and whether or not you are partial toward either party. Then, depending upon your answers, we go to the next phase of the trial. And the next phase is where the attorneys play a role. The state will go first because they have the burden of proof, and they'll have the right to ask you general questions as a panel. And they can follow up those general questions with individual questions to you. If there's something about your questionnaire or about what you said in the general questions that needs a follow-up. What sort of questions can you anticipate? Well, frequently attorneys are interested in where you live in the county, how long you've lived in the county, what your marital status is, from what business or industry, what business or industry you're working in, if you're retired. They'd like to know that, like to know where you worked when you were working. Also, they generally are interested in your previous jury experience, any interests you have, your opinions, your acquaintances, your religion, any social or fraternal connections that you may have, your personal, family, or business experiences, or anything which might indicate that you would be inclined to lean toward or be biased toward this case, any attorney, or either party. Please do not be offended by any of these questions. They are not designed to pry into your personal affairs. They are designed to put jurors in the box who will be able to return a true and fair verdict. That's the purpose of this process. The grand jury of this county has indicted the defendant in this case. In this state, no person accused of a felony can be brought to trial unless that person has been either formally accused by the state or indicted by the grand jury. An indictment is not evidence of guilt, and that's what we have in this case. It is merely the mechanism used to bring about the trial. The indictment in this case reads as follows, and I ask all of you to pay careful attention as I read it. The grand jurors selected, chosen, and sworn for the county of Henry, in the name and on behalf of the citizens of Georgia, charge and accuse Sean Raheem Clark with the offense of child molestation, in that the said accused in the state and county aforesaid, on or about the 2nd day of December 2018, did commit an indecent act in the presence of a 9 partner, a child under the age of 16 years, with the intent to arouse the sexual desires of said accused by displaying his penis and masturbating, contrary to the laws of said state, the peace, good order, and dignity thereof. Count 2, he's not charged. 3 reads as follows. And the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and on behalf of the citizens of Georgia, further charge and accuse Sean Raheem Clark with the offense of public indecency, and that the said accused in the state and county aforesaid, on or about the 2nd day of December 2018, did perform a lewd exposure of his penis at the Henry County Jail, a public place, contrary to the laws of said state, the peace, good order, and dignity thereof. Count 4 is not charged, so I won't read that to you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand so that I can administer an oath. Raise your right hand. You shall give true answers to all questions that may be asked by the court or its authority, including all questions asked by the parties or their attorneys concerning your qualifications as jurors in the case of the state of Georgia versus Sean Raheem Clark. So help you God. All right, thank you all. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now ask you some questions. Please raise your hand if your answer to any of these questions is yes. Is there anyone in panel 4 who is not currently a resident of Henry County? If you're not currently a resident of Henry County, please raise your hand. Is there anyone in panel 4 who is a convicted felon who's not had his or her civil rights restored? If you fall in that category, please raise your hand. Is there any person in the jury, well, I should say panel 4, who is related by blood or marriage to District Attorney Darius Patel, Assistant District Attorneys Megan Matucci or Amanda Duncan, the defendant in this case, Sean Raheem Clark, or the alleged victim in this case, Anaya Parker? If you are related by blood or marriage to any of these people, please let us know by raising your hand. Have any of you, for any reason, formed or expressed any opinion in regard to the guilt or innocence of the accused as you sit there right now? If so, please raise your hand. Have any of you any prejudice or bias resting on your mind either for or against the accused as you sit there right now? If so, please raise your hand. Is your mind perfectly impartial between the state and the accused at this time? If not, please raise your hand. All right. Thank you. Ms. Matucci. And Ms. Duncan will be handling the blood iron here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, as the judge indicated, my name is Amanda Duncan. I'm an assistant district attorney here in Henry County, and I will be assisting Ms. Megan Matucci on this case that she will be handling as lead counsel. It's a little bit of a different environment for us all. We are all wearing masks. I know that increases the difficulty of us being able to hear one another. I will do my best to speak up so that you can hear me. And whenever you're responding to a question, if you could speak up so that we can all hear your responses as well. If at any point you have any trouble hearing me, just let me know, raise your hand. We'll do our best to speak up so that everyone can hear everything. Is there anyone here who has difficulty understanding the English language? It is not your primary language.
And, ma'am, you're directly in front of me with the, is it a maroon mask? Would you mind just shifting just 2 inches this way so that the person behind you too? Like, you have big hair. All right, thank you.
We anticipate that this case will conclude no later than the end of this week. We believe it will take anywhere from a few days to the end of the week. Is there anyone who has any sort of hardship that would include non-refundable flights, a surgery, an important doctor's appointment, something of that nature that would be difficult or impossible to reschedule? Yes, sir.
I'm supposed to go to Orlando, flying to Orlando, and going on Friday, and I'm having surgery that afternoon.
On Friday?
Yes.
Okay. And so if we were completed prior to Friday, there would not be any sort of conflict? Okay, but if it's a possibility of extending to Friday, you're indicating that's a conflict. And what time is your flight on Friday?
7:19.
I'm sorry?
Or 700.
7 o'clock in the morning? Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who has? Yes, sir.
I just have work commitments. I'm self-employed, so it's like I don't really have somebody to fill in for me.
Yes, sir. We certainly understand the sacrifices that everyone makes in coming to jury service, and we appreciate those sacrifices. And we certainly will do our best to be as efficient as possible while also making sure that there's a fair case presented for both sides. So thank you for expressing those concerns. The judge asked if you were related by blood or marriage to several different individuals. I want to ask you some additional questions. Does anyone here know the District Attorney Darius Patillo? Does anyone think that they know myself, Amanda Duncan, or Assistant District Attorney Megan Matucci? Mr. Clark, if you would please stand. Does anyone here think that they know Mr. Clark, or if he reminds you of someone that you know? Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Lord is Mr. Clark's attorney. Does anyone think that they know Mr. Richard Lord, or that they have been represented by him or have gone to him to seek legal advice? Do any of you have any close friends or family members that are defense attorneys? Number 99. And are those friends or family members? Family? And do they practice here locally in Henry County?
No.
Okay. Are they here in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. And do they do criminal defense work?
Now, a small amount, I think.
Okay. Do they ever speak to you about their work?
When she was a judge, now she's back to practicing law, but it's not since she's been back to practicing law.
Okay.
It's just in general, not in the juvenile court.
Okay. Is there anything about that relationship that would prevent you from judging the evidence fairly in this case?
No.
Has anyone here attended law school or taken any legal or paralegal courses, either in college or just any sort of classes, any sort of training of that nature? We asked you questions about the district attorney's office as well as Mr. Lord and Mr. Clark, but in sitting in this room today, look around. Do any of you know each other or know any other individuals that are potential jurors on the case that maybe you've seen downstairs or in the hallway? I'm going to read you a list of potential witnesses in this case. If there's anyone who you think that you know or their name sounds familiar, just please raise your hand and let us know. Vanessa Parker, Anaya Parker, Christopher Schauer, Charles Crenshaw, Timothy Cummings, Josh Fielder, Wendy Sandvidge, Greg Patterson, Serinda Flanagan. Is there anyone who has ever worked in a jail? Not necessarily the Henry County Jail, but you worked in a jail. Is there anyone who has gone to a jail either to visit someone or you yourself have been arrested but you've been inside the jail? Either the Henry County Jail or another jail. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Number 94?
I've been to visit someone in jail.
You visited someone in jail? And was that the Henry County Jail?
And I was full-time.
Okay. And how long ago was that? Okay. Okay. Ma'am, you also raised your hand?
Just through my prior work, I've been to jails and prisons to visit inmates for work.
Okay, and what sort of work was that?
At that time, I was a probation officer,
Okay.
and, in my job prior to this, I'm a federal agent, and I had to go through interviews with cooperating defendants,
Okay.
things like that.
So that's something that you frequently have done through your employment?
I haven't done it in quite a while, but when I was a probation officer, I did a little more reserve, warrants and things like that, but I mean, not a ton, lately. But I have been in jail and prisons.
Okay. And I believe there was someone in the back as well. Yes, sir.
If it counts when they used to fingerprint you for handgun, permit.
Okay, so it was for you to obtain a permit?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anyone on this side? Yes, ma'am.
Visit
Okay. And was that the Henry County Jail or another jail?
another jail.
Okay. And what jurisdiction was that?
That was in Louisiana.
Okay. And about how long ago?
It was many years ago.
Okay. Was that something that occurred on more than one occasion?
Probably once or twice.
Yes, ma'am. I saw your hand as
Yes,
well.
I worked as a juvenile counselor in California.
And did you
In
go?
juvenile hall.
Okay. And you had to go to the facilities as part of your work duties?
Yes.
Okay. Has anyone here ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? Has anyone here or a close friend or family member ever been accused of or charged with a sexual related crime such as child molestation, public indecency, sexual assault, any sex related crime? You or someone you know have been accused or charged with a crime of that nature? Is there anyone, again, either yourself or a close friend or family member has been a victim of a sexual type crime? Okay. Yes, ma'am, we'll start over here with you. Number 99.
A close relative was a victim of child molestation, and I was a victim of indecent exposure.
You said as a child.
It's me and my sister.
And the family member, do you know if that molestation was reported?
It was.
Okay. And do you know if anything was ever pursued through the system?
I was a child, but I know that they were never charged.
Okay. All right, I saw some other hands over here as well. Yes, sir, number 100.
My wife was a child.
And do you know if that was reported? You do
No.
not know, or it was not
The
reported?
government, it was not reported.
Okay. And I believe you, sir, in the back, number 109, is that correct?
Less, I don't think I was probably 8, if not included.
You said that was you person?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And that was a family member? And did you say that was or was not reported?
Not reported.
And was that due to your age?
I was never told me that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry for all of you who have dealt with that yourself or family members. And I just want to ask you over here, the 3 individuals that raised your hand, is there anything about the experiences that you've dealt with either personally or your family members that would prevent you from sitting and being fair and impartial in this case, given the charges that the judge read? Okay. And sir in the back?
I don't know if I feel enough.
Okay. So you feel that you cannot say for certain at this point whether you could be fair and impartial in the case?
Sure.
Do you feel that your mind may be swayed towards one party over the other?
I agree.
Okay. And obviously, something like that is something that sticks with someone for a lifetime. Do you feel that you could set that aside, listen to the evidence in the case, and judge the witnesses and make a determination based on that?
I don't want his blood on my hands.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you, sir. And coming over to this side, is there anyone who either yourself or a close friend or family member has been a victim? Yes, number 126?
So, I was young in elementary school, I had friends, I don't remember her name, but he was lower than anybody sexual predator. I know he went to jail, he was reported to jail. My cousin, when she was younger, she was sexually assaulted by her sister's ex and her sister's ex's father.
Okay.
And I have a coworker who used to be a close friend of mine, and she was sexually assaulted by her cousin.
Okay. And same question that I asked those individuals, are there anything about those experiences, your knowledge of them, that would prevent you from being fair and listening to the evidence in this case?
No, I'm pretty lost as a person, so I don't care.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else over here? Yes, sir.
My cousin was listed by her father at young age.
Okay. Do you know if that was ever reported?
No.
And same question for you, is there anything about your knowledge of what your cousin went through that would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone that believes that law enforcement should not be involved with family matters, whether that's some sort of domestic disturbance going on in the home, some sort of sexual abuse? Is there anyone who feels that that's a matter of the family and should be left to the family to deal with, and that law enforcement should not be involved? Does anyone have any experience working with children, either as a coach, a teacher, doctor, counselor, anything of that nature? All right, yes, ma'am. Is that your work as juvenile counselor?
No, that was like 20 years ago.
Okay.
But I did work for the Department of Family and Children's Services
Okay.
previously.
And you're number 113, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, is there anyone else who has had any? All right, yes, sir. Number 100.
Little League coach for a couple of years and, assistant coach for cheerleading many years ago.
And the Little League coach, what were the ages of those children?
It was T-balls, so, we're talking 5 to 7, maybe.
And you said you also assisted with coaching a cheerleading team?
Yeah.
And what were the ages of those?
4 or
4 and 5?
5.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to me, we're talking probably 20 years ago, prior to my start in law enforcement, I guess it was like a contract company for the Department of Juvenile Justice, where they were called, I don't even think they do it anymore, we were trackers. We would basically supplement the juvenile probation officers and track the kids. So these are kids that were on probation through the state, and we would go out and monitor their activities, make sure they were at home when they're supposed to be, and just, keep in touch with the family and go out to their homes and schools and all that stuff.
And were these largely teenagers?
They were.
Okay. All right, and juror number 109, I believe you had your hand raised as well?
Children's church, first and second grade.
Okay. Is that something that you still do?
Before COVID, that's what it was.
Okay, so up until recently. And what were the ages of those children again?
First and second grade.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Okay. 8 to 12. Is there anyone else that I missed? Is there anyone here who's ever been falsely accused of a crime? Does anyone have any moral, philosophical, or religious beliefs that would prevent you from sitting on a jury trial? It would prevent you from reaching a verdict in a jury trial? Is there anyone who feels that they have some sort of physical hardship or medical reason that would make jury duty very difficult? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm diabetic and I take insulin shots.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm checking my blood sugar regularly, so that's, the problem is great, a lot of things wrong, but I haven't put that on.
And so if you were selected on the jury, as long as we gave you the appropriate breaks, would that be sufficient for you? Okay. Is there anyone else who has any concerns? Okay. Does anyone have any issue looking at nudity or genitals to the point that it would distract you or prevent you from focusing on the case? If that was evidence presented to you, would that be something that would be difficult for you to do to the point that you do not feel that you would be able to participate in the trial? All right, I'm going to ask some individual questions as well. Start with you, juror number 94. And I will let you all know we are largely going off of the questions, and so if there's anything that is inaccurate information that we ask you about, just please correct us. We're just trying our best to go off of the information, and hopefully it is accurate. Juror number 94, I saw in here that you had some concerns about having children who are enrolled in remote learning currently.
Yeah, so my kids are home, they're actually in the bottom person, so I actually left my kids with my mom's birthday.
Okay, and if you were selected to serve, is there someone, your mom or someone else, who could sit with them while they're doing their schoolwork this week?
My mom.
Okay.
She's retired, so they can take her.
Okay. You mentioned in this questionnaire that you had called 911. you or someone close to you had called 911? And what was the reason for that?
I called because I witnessed an accident on the highway.
You saw an accident?
Yeah.
Okay.
I parked it and I called for that.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
It says that you have 2 children, and I believe you said that they are both school age?
Yeah.
Okay. What are their ages?
10 and 16.
I believe you had indicated also that your sister and your mother both had been victims of thefts in the early 2000s. And based on your knowledge of that, were they satisfied with the way that the police handled those incidents?
I guess, it never went to the court or anything. My sister's car was stolen, and, my mom's purse was stolen at first, and then she had a spare key to my sister's car, and her car got stolen.
Okay.
And after that, the car was found at the time, but it was in really good condition, but they didn't find the person who did it.
Okay. In regards to the criminal justice system and the police, you indicated that there are some concerns that you have regarding the criminal justice system and also police, and that those concerns could cause you to judge an officer's testimony differently. Were you speaking generally?
Yes, generally, just with the current climate that's going on now, with people of color, I'm not totally, not totally believable or believable on how the process is.
And do you feel that you would be able to listen to the witnesses in this case and listen to the evidence and make a determination of each witness based on their testimony during the trial?
I mean, I can, yeah, I'm pretty, fair-minded, so I can make a comfortable decision.
And do you think that if an officer testified that you would be able to give him a fair chance to give you testimony and wait until you hear all the evidence to determine their credibility?
Yeah, I will wait until I hear everything before I determine whether or not I believe their credibility.
Do you think that just because they are an officer that you would be less likely to believe what they're telling you?
To some degree, yes.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you, ma'am. Juror number 97. Good afternoon. Now, you indicated on this form that you live with your sister who has some health issues. Does it cause you any concern to be here today?
No, not really.
Okay, so that's not something that would be weighing on your mind if you were selected to serve?
Not really.
Okay. It says that you currently are unemployed. And have you had any employment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when was the last time you were employed?
February this year.
Okay. And is that largely just due to difficulty in finding jobs with the pandemic?
Yes, ma'am. And, me moving back and forth from, I'm from Savannah.
Okay.
So I moved back and forth from there.
Okay. And what type of work were you doing?
I was in the clinic with my dad.
Okay. Now, I see that you're 19 years old. If you were selected to serve on the jury, do you feel that you would be able to maintain any thoughts or feelings that you had on the trial if someone older than you had a differing opinion? Okay. And do you feel that there's any reason that you could not be fair and impartial to both the state and the defense if you were chosen to serve on this case? Thank you. Number 99, it says you have one child?
Yes,
How old are they?
he's 7. Not a stepchild, but she's an adult.
Okay. How old is she?
21.
And I know we spoke briefly about you being the victim of an indecent exposure, and you said that was when you were younger. How old were you?
I was probably 12,
Okay.
around somewhere.
And did that occur here in Georgia?
Oh,
Was that someone that you knew or a stranger?
stranger.
Where were you at when that occurred?
Inside my house.
Okay.
He was outside the window.
He was outside of the home?
He was across the street.
Okay. Did he live there or was he just outside?
No, he was in the woods. He called. This is when cell phones, I guess, when he called the home. I was inside the house with my sister in the summer. He called, and so I was standing in the window, four cordless phones and all that stuff, it's real home phone. And he helped me look out the window, and he was, well, now I know he was masturbating. I didn't know at the time what that was, across the street.
So he told you over the phone to come to the window?
Well, the phone was right, just coincidentally,
Okay.
it happened to be next to the window,
Okay.
and he said he was watching me. He was, I guess, stalking me.
Okay. And did you call police?
Yeah, well, my neighbor next door, my mom was on her way home from work. Police did come, the sheriff's department did come. And he, left a piece of evidence in the woods, and that's how they found out who he was. He left a receipt from his work. And I had to pick him out of a lineup, I was on a lineup, and he ended up pleading guilty, because he said he didn't want to put it to the trial. That's all, I mean, I don't know what his sentence was, I was too
Okay.
young to know that about that, but that's really all I remember about it.
Okay.
But that wouldn't, that wouldn't affect, I'm in law enforcement, so I understand. I know how this process works, and it needs to be fair on both sides, so that wouldn't affect my decision on it.
Yes, ma'am. And that just goes to my next question, and based on your job, and I believe your husband is also a special agent as well, is there anything about the nature of your work or his work that would impact your ability to be fair and impartial to both the state and the defense?
Not at all.
And based on that, I know you said that you've now been in law enforcement for some time, but that incident that occurred to you as a child, is there anything about that and the nature of the charges here that would cause you to have any sort of emotions or anything that would bring back any memories or cause you to be uncomfortable in hearing a case such as this?
No.
Thank you. Juror number 100. Says says here you're a mechanic for Delta?
Yes.
And how long have you been doing that work?
On aircraft, 23 years. Before that, cars and trucks.
I see here that you have listed that your wife has some health issues. Does being here today cause you any concern in regards to your wife?
No, because my son is there at the current moment. I've been in touch with her all that long.
Okay.
She got lupus, MS, and epilepsy.
And so if you were selected to serve on the jury, is there someone such as your son who could check in on her while you were away? Okay. And does the fact that there would be someone available, would that ease your mind in terms of you being away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would that at all be weighing on your mind or distract you from jury service?
They just couldn't communicate anything with me. I had to tell them very excited, so I get that he got sick up on here, and she's having a fever, she fell down again, all that.
Yes, sir. And obviously, you all didn't see it, but we do take breaks, just for comfort breaks, but also breaks for cleaning as well. So there would be breaks, where you would be able to check in if necessary. And so if you've had that opportunity, is that something that would make you feel more comfortable? Okay. It says you've served on a jury before? And how long ago was that?
So 10 years ago.
10 years? Was that here in Henry County? And without telling us what the verdict was, were you all able to reach a verdict?
Yes.
Were you the foreperson? And you've been the victim of a theft? How long ago was that?
Close to 35 years ago.
And is that the incident you were thinking of when you indicated that you had called 911 before, or was that a separate incident?
I was got called 911 for traffic accidents, I've run into here, I never called 911 for, anything, that I've seen that's nefarious.
Okay. And it says you were part of some sort of crime prevention or criminal justice organization?
No.
Like maybe a neighborhood watch or something like that? Or maybe a family member? Okay, and what sort of program was that family member involved with?
My wife did a bunch of ride-alongs, our cousin was sheriff. I took karate with Detective Davis in Felon County.
And you mentioned both you and your wife having some connections to law enforcement. Is there anything about those relationships that would cause you to give more weight to an officer's testimony?
Not necessarily.
Do you believe that you could listen to all witnesses' testimony and weigh it equally? Do you believe that you could hear all the evidence and be fair and impartial? And is there anything that would prevent you from being fair and impartial to both the state and the defense in this case? Thank you, sir. Juror number 101. All right, sir, you listed here that you have a health concern due to being diabetic.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And is that something that if you were given regular breaks that you would be able to manage that?
Yes,
Okay, and as long as you're given regular breaks, is that something that would alleviate any concerns that you had?
yes,
Now, you're 25 years old, is that correct? Obviously, there are varying ages in the room. Is that something that if you went into the jury deliberation room, that you feel that you would hold your opinion if it was an honest opinion, even if someone that was older than you had a different opinion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there anything that you can think of that would make you not be fair or impartial to either side?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Number 109. And sir, you indicated on this form that a concern you had was that you provide daily transport for your elderly father. Is there someone who can take over those duties if you're selected? Okay. And you also mentioned some possible health concerns aside from COVID.
I think we've got it all sorted in the shop and stuff.
Okay. And you've been a victim of burglary multiple times? Were those here in Henry County or?
I had a shop out in Carrollton.
Okay.
And they were there.
They were at the business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And because of that, have you had frequent interaction with law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you been largely satisfied with their response?
And they've done what they could do, yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. And you indicated that either you or someone close had called 911, witnessed a crime, and maybe even testified. Is that all related to these burglaries or other situations? Okay. It says your brother-in-law is a lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm assuming he does not practice criminal law?
No.
Okay. Do you know what type of law he practices?
Immigration.
Okay. And I believe you also indicated that sometimes you've worked on police vehicles. Is there anything about the fact that you've worked on police vehicles and interacted with police officers that would cause you to give more weight to an officer's testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you believe that you could give all witnesses equal weight?
I think we went over that a few minutes ago, you know, where I've been.
Yes, sir. All right, and then I believe you answered yes, that there were some expectations of what you might see or hear based on what you see on TV. Okay, you don't recall answering that?
No.
Okay. And I believe there's also an indication that you believe the criminal justice system is unfair. Okay, you don't, okay. Like I said, some of the information could be inaccurate. You know, we're trying to rely on an electronic form, so. Is there anything else you can think of that would prevent you from being fair and impartial?
I have a pretty big one.
I'm sorry?
I said I have a pretty big one.
Okay. So other than what we discussed earlier, obviously that's something that you indicated that was weighing heavy on you and you did not feel you could be fair.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty, sir. Juror number 110.
Yes.
Says that you have served on a jury before.
Yes.
And how long ago was that?
8 years ago.
8 years ago? Was that here in Henry County?
Yes, it was.
And without telling us what the verdict was, did you all read your verdict?
Yes, we did.
Were you the foreperson?
No.
And I wanted to clarify one thing on the form again. We're trying to go off electronic form. It says something on here about sexual abuse. Was that something relating to your family member or relating to the trial?
The trial.
Okay. Is there anything about your experience with that jury service and knowing that this involves similar charges that would make it difficult for you to serve in this case? Okay. And you have 2 children?
Yes, it is.
How old are your children?
23 and 26.
Do you have any grandchildren?
No.
Is there anything that would prevent you from being fair and impartial if you were selected to serve on this jury? Thank you. Juror number 113. Just wanted to follow up. You said that previously you worked for defects. Was that here in Henry County?
No.
Okay. What jurisdiction was that?
Fulton, Clayton, Detail, Gwinnett.
You hit up all the major counties. Well, we appreciate your work, ma'am. How long in total were you with defects?
About 15, 20 years.
And it says that you have 2 children?
Yes.
What are their ages?
31 and 25.
Any grandchildren?
1.
How old are they?
He is 10.
Okay. And you have served on a jury before?
Grand jury in DeKalb.
Okay. And you have a son-in-law who is a police officer?
Yes.
Is there anything about the fact that you have a family member that is law enforcement that would cause you to weigh an officer's testimony greater than another witness?
No, they're all individuals.
Okay, so you feel that you could listen to everyone's testimony and make a determination for yourself?
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that you believe the criminal justice system is unfair,
Correct.
and is that something that is a general feeling?
A general African American living in America, and when you have somebody that steals a book bag and gets sentenced, and somebody can kill somebody with murder, so yeah,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
kind of makes me feel a little biased, yes.
Now, you mentioned it makes you feel a little biased.
Now, I said the court system, not me.
Okay.
I'm not biased.
Okay, so you feel that there is some bias in the court system.
Yes.
Would that affect your ability to sit and make a determination based on the facts and evidence
You know,
presented
I'm
to
a
you?
fair person. I believe in equal justice for everybody.
So
I'm fair.
if the state presented sufficient evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, would you be able to come to a verdict in the case?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything else that you can think of that would prevent you from being fair or impartial if selected for this jury?
No, I'm a social worker, I'm fair. That's my profession, that's my mission.
Your job is to look at everything and,
Right.
and weigh everything and make a decision.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Juror number 122, good afternoon. Now I saw on here, that you had some potential concerns relating to COVID, some potential health issues.
Not really concerned, so I do have a kidney disease, so I didn't know if we were gonna be, 6 feet apart, or what the atmosphere would be like.
Yes, ma'am. And now that you're in here and see the layout, does that alleviate some of the concerns that you have?
It does, but I'm just kind of nervous just being in this environment to begin with.
Okay.
This will be my first time. Never pretty much been in the courtroom, so it's kind of, it's not a good feeling.
Yes, ma'am. And is that something that you feel would weigh on your mind, and distract you if you're selected for jury service?
It may.
And you also indicated, that you may have difficulty following the judge's instructions if you did not agree with something.
No, I don't recall saying that.
Okay. So you feel that if the judge gave certain instructions, that you would be able to follow those instructions?
Correct.
And is that even if you may hold personal beliefs that differ from what the law says?
No, I'm stick to my beliefs, I think.
Okay, so if your personal beliefs differed from the instructions the judge gave you, you would have difficulty following those instructions?
In a sense, yeah.
Okay. You also indicated that you may be less likely to believe a witness if they are an officer.
In a sense.
Okay. And is that because of a personal experience or just because of the current climate?
Just the current time.
Okay. And are you able to make a determination that each case is different?
Yes.
And determine that if an officer comes in and testifies that you would be able to judge the credibility for yourself?
Correct.
And do you believe that you would be open to giving them a fair chance even though they are an officer?
Correct.
And you believe that you would be able to be open-minded and consider all evidence in making a decision?
Yes.
And that includes the officer's testimony?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. Juror number 126. Sir, you had indicated that you live with a brother that has some health issues.
They had Down syndrome. Long ago, yes, he used to have a heart condition, but he goes to cardiologist regularly, so he should be okay.
Okay. Do you have any concerns in being here today?
Okay. I think about the public every now.
Okay. Now, similarly to juror number 101, you are younger, you're 20 years old, is that correct? And if you were selected to serve on this jury, would you be able to hold on to an opinion if it was a true and honest opinion based on the evidence, even if someone older than you had a different opinion?
You're saying like, would I change my opinion somehow, like a different opinion from me?
Right, would you feel, just because someone's older than you, that you should kind of change your mind to their opinion?
No, I'll keep mine.
Okay. And you feel that you would be able to express your own opinions in jury deliberation?
Yeah.
Okay. And you also indicated some possible expectations of how a trial would go based on what you see on TV?
Yeah. Mainly video games, not that.
Mainly what?
Video games.
A video?
Video games.
Okay. And is there anything, do you have any expectations about technology or things of that nature?
No, okay. I just have some expectations how it runs, but it won't really affect my opinion.
Okay. Is there anything else you can think of that would prevent you from being fair and impartial to both the state and the defense if you're chosen? Okay. Thank you, sir. Juror number 127. Good afternoon, sir. I think this is the first time I've gotten to speak to you. You've been quiet over there. All right, sir, you are 24 years old, so similar question to you. If you were selected to serve on this jury, do you think you could express your opinions and maintain your opinions even if people that may be older than you have a differing opinion? Okay. And it says here that you are a truck driver. How long have you been doing that?
3 years.
Okay. And does that work often take you out of state? Okay. It says that you, at one point, you thought about becoming a police officer, and you decided not to go that route? Okay. Was there any particular reason?
No.
Just decided it wasn't for you? Okay. And it says you or someone close to you has called 911 before? Was that you or someone else?
It was me.
I'm sorry? Oh, car accident? Okay. Did you interact with police at all? Okay. And was there anything about that experience that left a positive or negative taste? Okay. You also indicated that you may be less likely to believe an officer if they testify. Is that, and also some issues with the criminal justice system being unfair. Are those largely opinions based on what's going on in the world or based on a personal experience?
Just based on what's going on in the world.
Okay. And have you had any issues here with local law enforcement? Okay. Would you be able to listen to the evidence presented, including testimony from officers, and make a fair determination based on the evidence presented to you? Do you believe that you would be able to give an officer an equal opportunity to present his case and make a determination? Okay. And you believe that you could be open-minded and listening to that testimony? And do you think that you could be both fair and impartial to the state and the defense? All right, thank you, sir. Juror number 129. It says that you have, you're either friends or family with a Henry County officer.
My ex-brother-in-law, but he not more of it was.
Okay. And is there anything about that relationship that would cause you to give greater weight to someone's testimony just because they're an officer? Do you feel that you could be fair and impartial? Okay. Says that you were a victim of a burglary. Okay. Was that your home or a business?
Well, my workshop and then homes, not my home, but as a kid, my parents' home got broken into a couple times, and then I found my vehicle.
Okay.
To my work vehicle and my personal vehicle also.
And when you indicated that you had contacted law enforcement, was that in relation to those burglaries? Okay. And were you satisfied with the response of law enforcement in relation to those burglaries?
For the most part.
Yes, sir. There's also indication that you have a daughter that is enrolled in remote learning.
Yes.
And is there any concern with her remote learning? Is there somewhere else that she can go if you're away at jury duty?
Well, this is a class home, so she's got to go to school this week.
Okay, so she'll be physically in the school building this week.
That's the plan.
Okay, all right. And if that changes, is there someone else that could?
Well, she's with the Catholic. She's with her mother's other half.
Okay, so if you were in jury duty, would her mother be able to assist in her care?
No.
No? Okay. All right, is that something the way that works out, is that something that would cause concern for you?
It should have been here.
Okay.
Unless I got a report here early.
It's typically not any earlier than what you were here today, so. And you served on a jury, looks like about 10, 11 years ago in Henry County?
Maybe longer than that.
Okay, and this says it was a civil case? Were you all able to reach a verdict? Were you the foreperson? Okay. And is there anything else that you can think of that would prevent you from being fair and impartial if you were selected to serve on this jury? All right, thank you, sir. That concludes my questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Lord.
Yes, sir. That's all right. I just got a few, thank you. All right, I've got a few questions. I'm Attorney Lord. I represent Mr. Davis here. I'm in Mr. Clark, so I'm Clark. Okay, if this is true, raise your hand. How many of you believe that innocent people are not arrested by the local police? So do you believe that innocent people are not arrested? Is that true? Everybody understands? You kind of have to say it backwards. So if someone got arrested, they probably did something wrong. That would be the opposite. What is it? Okay, all right. Okay. Understand? All right, thank you. All right, does everyone understand that Sean, my client, comes into this court presumed to be innocent? So even though he's sitting at, this is the defense table, he's still presumed innocent. Okay? Thank you. At the beginning, when we first got in here, the judge read the indictment to you. That's what Mr. Clark is accused of. So is there anyone who thinks that an indictment is proof that Sean, my client, committed a crime? So the indictment, the charging document, does anyone think that's proof that he committed a crime because he's charged with a crime? Okay, thank you. And then lastly, is there anyone that doesn't want to be here for any reason or no reason? You just don't want to be here and you don't want to tell us why. You'd rather be somewhere else or need to be somewhere else. Okay, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, you're panel number 4. And we're going to see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I want to give you just a few preliminary instructions to sort of help us get from now until then. The first is that it's very natural to want to sort of pull out your phone and put in a search term and find out something about perhaps something that you've heard here today. That's strictly prohibited. You cannot do any independent investigation connected with any aspect of this case. No Google searches of any kind, no searches anywhere of anything. Everything that you need to know about this case, you'll hear in this courtroom. Everything that you will need to decide this case, you'll hear here in this courtroom. It's vital to the integrity of the process that you maintain your fidelity to that idea. Also, if you would please not make any social media postings of any kind about where you are and what you're doing. That helps to preserve the integrity of the process. In another way. Last, if you please remember, as you're exiting the building, to maintain your social distancing. Whenever you're in the building, don't gather. Please be sure that you keep your mask up over your nose at all times. Hopefully, by tomorrow morning, you'll know whether or not you've been selected to serve. So when you arrive, come back in the building and go to the seats that have been assigned to you. You've got your number, you've got the number on the seat. You'll just go right back to that spot. Then shortly after you get here, hopefully we'll be in a position to let you know whether or not you've been selected. Okay? And the last thing I want to say is we greatly appreciate you being here. We appreciate your patience. Again, we can't do this without you. And just really thank you from the bottom of my heart. So we'll see you all soon. Have a good night.
Are we coming back here, or are we going to are we coming back here?
No, ma'am. You're going to go back to your seat. What's your number?
113.
You're going to go to seat number 113, which is in the room that you were in before you came in here.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. first juror on the state. The party's ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then let's begin with the first juror. Vicki, would you please put the first juror on the stand?
Juror number 6.
And could you please also state their name?
Jurors are acceptable to the state.
Acceptable.
Your Honor, are you okay if I address the court seating?
It's fine.
Thank you.
It's just us sitting.
Juror number 7, Lenora Johnson Sefel.
Acceptable to the state.
Acceptable.
Juror number 2.
Juror number 8, Barry Timothy Wright.
Acceptable to the state.
Strike.
Juror number 10, Christopher M. Galls.
Acceptable to the state.
Strike.
D2.
Juror number 11, Tiffany Michelle Clayton.
Acceptable to the state.
Acceptable.
Juror number 3.
Juror number 12, Brownwin Adele Brown.
Strike. Yes, 1.
Juror number 16, Deshaun Warner Durden.
Strike. Yes, 2.
Juror number 25,
One second. Daniel Charles Perez, juror number 14, was not the juror, correct?
He is not on our list.
Very good, thank you. So now we're at Deshaun Warner Durden was states 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
Juror number 25,
Acceptable.
Ashley Rose Bates.
Acceptable.
Juror number 4.
Juror number 27, Shannon H. Bussey.
Acceptable.
Acceptable.
Juror number 5.
Juror number 28, Donna R. Jeffries.
Acceptable.
Acceptable.
Juror number 6.
Juror number 29, Janetta S. Roberts.
Acceptable.
Acceptable.
Juror number 7.
Juror number 31, Mark David Sewell.
Acceptable.
Strike.
D3.
Juror number 33, Brian Lukemeyer.
Acceptable.
Strike.
D4.
Juror number 35, Christy Young.
Acceptable.
Strike.
D5.
Juror number 37, Diane Hutchinson.
Acceptable.
Acceptable.
Juror number
Juror number 40, Caleb James Anderson.
Acceptable?
Strike.
B6. Juror number 41, Timothy Joel Straw.
Acceptable?
Strike.
B7. Juror number 43, Miguel A. Raymond III.
Acceptable?
Acceptable.
Juror 9?
Juror number 46, Robbie Joe Scott Jr.
Acceptable?
Strike.
B8. Juror number 47, Savannah Marie Gregory.
Acceptable?
Acceptable.
Juror 10?
Juror number 48, Ursula Jo Dingler.
Acceptable?
Acceptable.
Juror 11?
Juror number 50, Chrissy Jones Birchton.
Acceptable?
Strike.
D9?
Juror number 57, Anthony Bernard Watts.
Strike. S3?
Juror number 59, Jonathan Lee Campbell.
Acceptable?
Acceptable.
Juror 12?
All right. That's our jury. Now let's start with alternates. Generally what I do is go down to the bottom 6 jurors that we question, and we have 2 groups of 3.
Yes, sir.
With each of you having 1 strike per alternate. And so the alternate comes from the first alternate comes from the first group of 3, and the second alternate comes from the second.
Let me start with mine.
So let me see. Yes, 101, Owen Robier, 101 would be our first juror on the stage.
So your honor, it's 101, 110, and 113?
That's correct.
One is acceptable to the state.
Strike.
D1?
Juror number 110, Kendra K. Master.
Acceptable to the state.
Acceptable.
No, for number 1.
All 1. And then we shift to the last 3. Beginning with 126, Brandon Rodriguez Ordonez. On the state.
Acceptable to the state.
Acceptable.
All 2. And if the clerk would please just repeat back the jurors who can select that certificates.
Teresa Estrada Marino. Lenora Johnson Savelle. Tiffany Michelle Clayton. Ashley Rose Bates. Shannon H. Bussey. Donna R. Jeffries. Janetta S. Roberts. Diane K. Hutchinson. Miguel A. Ramos III.
Gregory, Ursula Joe Dingler, Jonathan Lee Campbell.
All right, and now to the alternates.
Alternate 1, Kendra K. Lemaster. Alternate 2, Brandon Rodriguez or Jones.
Do the parties agree with the composition of the jury as a whole?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Does either party have any objection to the method used to select the jury in this case?
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
Then that will wrap up our jury selection. And they'll all be reporting back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so we'll be in a position at that time to have them seated, and we'll proceed directly to instructions and opening. I understand that there might be, have you had a chance to talk with your co-counsel about how you're going to handle the afternoon? Is it something where Ms. Matucci has another obligation in the afternoon? I know she's discussed it with you, Mr. Lord.
I have not, Your Honor.
But there is a window of about an hour that she needs, at least an hour. How long would you say you think you need for that obligation? 2 hours? Driving there and back, interviewing for 10, 20 minutes?
Your Honor, I'm doing it virtually.
Oh, you are?
I would, if the court invites, I would like to be able to go to my home, which is 10 minutes away. So an hour would be great.
An hour would suffice?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, an hour is not too much of a delay trial. We've got the whole week. I think that we can very easily get this all done by Friday if we grant her a little bit of leave in the middle of tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you.
Do something that's personal and also / professional.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, so we'll do that, and just give me the time frame again.
My interview is at 1:30, Your Honor. So yeah, I would like if we could take an extended lunch break.
So we'll come back at 2:30.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, so we might run a little bit long in the morning, maybe 12:30, and then go ahead and resume at 2:30.
That would be very helpful, Judge.
Okay. All right, any objections, Mr. Lord?
No objection.
All right, thank you, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning. Thank you for a good and full day, and we'll see you all soon.
Your Honor, can I address one issue on the record or with you?
Yes.
Support. I spoke to Mr. Glaze also about this regarding the YouTube streaming and the evidence that we anticipate displaying to Tedder tomorrow would be show partial nudity. We do not want the county to be kicked off of YouTube by displaying nudity on YouTube. So my suggestion, I've been working with Mr. Glaze on that. We anticipate the exhibit being tendered and airing it on the screens. So we would have to not have the screens displayed on the YouTube stream. If we could show Your Honor or the witness or some other, so we did not display nudity on YouTube.
We don't have a closed circuit down to the overflow room. And even if we did, so we have to go through YouTube in order to make this happen to the overflow, right? But the other thing is that we don't have a lot of members of the public here, and we do have plenty of space available for members of the public. So I don't know that it's necessary that we frankly have a video feed all for the trial of the case. So what are your thoughts? So this is an open trial.
I didn't understand.
Well, we have an open trial.
Right.
And we have an open courthouse, and we have seats available for the public to come in and sit. And so I'm not so sure that we need to have any kind of streaming of the rest of the trial into an overflow room in view of the kind of case and the fact that we can accommodate Mr. Clark's family with the seating that we have here in the courtroom. So I don't know that is there there any objections to just us turning off the YouTube feed for the remainder of the trial?
No, Your Honor.
objection.
Okay, well, that's where we are then, that's what we're gonna do. And, thank you both. I will see you in the morning.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, thank you.